guys, this is Thammasat International Moot Society. Now you're listening to Moot on Monday. คุณกำลังรับฟัง Moot on Monday วันจันทร์ที่น่าสงสัยมาไขปัญหาไปกับเรา
Hi everyone, I'm Rasna, now a third year law student here at Thammasat. I'm also this year's vice president from TIMS. I'm very excited for today's episode because these two guests of ours is who introduced me to TIMS and brought me into the TIMS family last year. It's our former president and vice president. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Okay, hi, I'm Nadia. I was TIMS's president last year. I graduated from the International LL.B program at Thammasat University last year, and I'm currently working.
Hi, Deeksha Alwani, and I'm now in my fourth year, and I was the vice president last year. And I'm currently studying in LL.B Thammasat University.
To start off today's episode, I like to kind of turn back time for you guys and ask you guys a couple of questions before you guys started law school. So whether that was right out of high school for you guys, because I think this is something that a lot of the first years might be interested in, and also potential students who are coming into our faculty. So I'm sure you guys probably have seen all the shows and movies that relate to law school, like Suits, Legally Blonde, How to Get Away with Murder. And I know a lot of people, after watching them, really want to join law school. So what I want to know, and for them, an answer from two people who've already gone through it, how accurate are these shows and movies that you guys see? And would you guys really suggest people who want to join law school based on what they see on TV?
Okay, who should start?
You guys can take turns. Whoever wants to talk first.
Okay, so I think I might be a bit different from others because I only started watching legal dramas and stuff after I joined law school. So I didn't really have a vision in mind of whether or not those dramas would be the same as law school. But I think after joining, I could definitely say it's much more dull than dramas. And I think most of the stuff in those movies and series are actually pretty legal. So if you expect law school and legal practice to be that way, then you might be a bit disappointed. But it's also fun in its own way once you get into it. Just maybe not as exciting and as those movies and series.
I agree with P. Nadia. I really feel that people like to glamorize law school, and they think it's something you wear a suit and then you go and you look really sexy every day. But but I would say that studying law is actually very challenging, and the reality of it is you actually need to change the way you think. Because once you start studying law, you need to train yourself to think a certain way and approach problems and solutions in a certain way, and to be able to pinpoint and organize your thoughts. And I think that movies don't really show this. They don't show that
challenging aspect. Yeah, I agree.
they just show people wearing suits and looking really good all the time. But actually, it's a lot of hard work and ambition.
Yeah.
And also, no one talks about how slow law school can be. In all these shows and movies, it's so quick. You go to court super fast. Everything gets done quickly. When in reality, it's a slow, long process.
Yes.
No one talks about the dull side of it.
Exactly. Well, yeah. So I think if anyone is thinking about joining law school because you find those movies and stuff interesting, you might be a bit disappointed, but I still think it's worth trying out if you're really interested. But yeah, just don't have high expectations of it being very exciting and thrilling as it is on TV.
What was your expectation of law school before starting? So just before starting your first year, were you guys super excited about joining? Were you a little overconfident thinking that I can do this is gonna be fun, it's gonna be easy? Or were you guys nervous and intimidated by the idea of starting law school, especially if you were alone and you weren't coming with any friends from high school?
So for me, yeah, I think that last part was definitely me. I joined law school earlier So I skipped a couple years of high school. And yeah, so I didn't really have any friends to go to go through it with. But actually starting out, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to study law. I just didn't know that I just knew that I didn't want to go into like math and science and those like STEM majors. So I tried law school out and it worked out, which is great because or else it would have been really much more harder, I think. Um, I think in the beginning, I expected it to be a lot of reading and memorization and just like very intense, which it is at times. But then in law school, you kind of realize, I think, that memorizing isn't really the most important thing. You just have to understand what you've studied, and that's probably the most important thing you need to do as a law student because in real life you don't have to remember any laws because you can always do research and read them. So yeah, I think that was probably my misconception about law school before joining, that I had to memorize a lot and read a lot and just that it would be very dull and intense.
So for me, I was absolutely nervous, and I thought that I would not be able to study law, like, because I always thought that it was like for people who are really outgoing and outspoken. And I think I'm very, people say I'm very quiet and shy. So, so I felt like I was really like going into something way out of my league. So, um, I was very intimidated, and I agree with P and Nadia as well. Like, um, it's it's a challenge.
I'm sure a lot of first years feel the same way. Something I feel really bad about is that they're starting their law school online. Like the first year, the orientation, everything was online for them. And I feel really bad because now the experience is not the same for them. Also, like making friends and everything. I'm sure it's so much harder doing that online because, in like same classes, you guys aren't meeting at first meet camp and everything. And if I'm not wrong, P. Nadia, you did your fourth year maybe online. And P. Deeksha,
Yes.
you did your third year online, right? How did you guys deal with transitioning from doing in-person classes, closed book exams mailing to now doing it at home and all online?
Um, so yeah, I did my fourth year online, which I think I was pretty lucky because it was like my last semester, so I only had a couple classes left. It was hard, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I retained any information during that time. And yeah, I found the exams to be much harder just because I couldn't really focus. It's quite, I think working from home doesn't work for everyone. Some people might be really productive. I don't really work well at home. So yeah, it was definitely hard. But I wasn't too hard on myself because I felt like, and also the professors too, I think they also understood that it was new for everyone. And so if we, couldn't perform the way that we did in the past, then I think that's understandable. And I think it's also important for people who are still working from home and studying from home to keep that in mind, that it's okay if you're not as fast and not as productive as you were before. We just have to try to adapt, and hopefully this will all be over soon. Yeah.
I actually feel the opposite of P Nadia. I actually love working from home. I feel like I can concentrate so much better. It's like I can get up and I don't have to waste time traveling to university. And like, yeah, I can just like listen to professors. Oh, and about transitioning to studying from home, I would say that once it's open book, you have to expect that the exam would be harder than usual.
True. Yeah.
I would also say that take advantage of such opportunity because it's online, you can re-listen to every lecture and you can take very detailed notes. And if you're confident that a particular topic would come out in the exam, like you can even pre-write your answers. So I think that's a huge advantage. So I would like recommend to take advantage of that. And another advantage of studying from home is that if you are a really shy person, you can even like message. So in the chat box of WebEx or Zoom, you can like actually ask questions. And I've noticed that when it's studying from home, everyone is more willing to ask questions. So yeah, I would say that there are a lot of advantages as well.
I think a lot of people struggled with having motivation at home, like, having that mindset of starting your semester and ending it on like that like motivated drive, because you're not going to school every day, you're not going to campus, you're not in like a lecture hall with a bunch of your students, you're kind of home alone in your room type of thing. How did you guys try to maintain that mindset of that you have to study through your midterm and your finals and not burn out and like finish your motivation real quick?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to give this advice. I didn't do very well. I'm doing better because I've worked from home for a while now, so it's a bit easier. But maybe Deeksha should start because I think she's been doing very well at home, and I could take some notes as well. So yeah.
Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. I mean, but I would say that like when you're studying or working from home, I think discipline is very important because if you go to university, you have people around you who like you feel motivated by people around you, but when you're home alone, you need discipline. And I would say keeping in touch with friends. That really helps me. Like keeping like make sure that your friends are coming to class as well. If your friends are coming to class, you'll feel like, and then you can like text your friends during class, and that kind of gives you the same feeling like as if you're at university. And uh, also another way to maintain motivation is always remind yourself why you went to law school. And you know the world is constantly changing, and you have to like one of the soft skills. Like I think I read in an article like soft skills you need in 2021 is like being able to adapt. And I think a lot of workplaces also give a lot of importance to such skill. So I think just learning how to adapt and having a growth mindset, knowing that you can always improve yourself no matter what the situation. So I think that's gonna make you like outstanding. So I would say that just know that to like motivate yourself to be better each day, and I think that's gonna be okay.
Hopefully. But also now that we're coming to like the end of summer, classes are starting for a lot of us like in 4 or 5 days, right? Because summer break's coming to end. How do you guys bounce back into law school or back into work after having such a big break? Do you guys try to stay productive, and what do you do to make sure that when you come back to the semester that you're coming back with that same mindset that you're ready to start to study again, doing long hours and back to that busy schedule?
Um, yeah. So well, I've graduated, so maybe my input doesn't really, to try to nurture your mental health while you were, working from home, or even if you were taking a break. And you can do that by, adopting new hobbies and things like that. Um, I think one thing that really helped me was getting to know more about myself, trying to learn more about when I'm the most productive and when's a good time for me to work, because we don't all operate on the same hours. Some people might work well in the day, some people might work better at night, some people might work better if they have a project, uh, trying to work on it gradually over time. Some people might just like to do it last minute, partly because maybe they procrastinate, but also because they produce better work that way. Um, so I think maybe this can apply to everything: law school, work, all that. I think taking a break is a good opportunity to learn about yourself and learn about how your body works and when it works the best, when it works well, and then you can use that to your advantage when you eventually have to come back to that old setting. Yeah.
I really agree with P. Nadia. I think it's so important to have to put like I'm running out of words. It's so important to take care of your mental health. Um, I would say take it easy. Like don't overwhelm yourself. Like try a lot of things and don't think too much and just go for it. Just go for it. Like and make sure you're having fun. I think that's so important. Just make sure you're having fun all the time.
One thing that I hear a lot from either first years or students who are like just about to join law school is that there's this like whole talk about how we have a very competitive nature sometimes in law school, not just within your own group of friends, maybe like in your entire batch, your year, because everyone is involved in doing so many different clubs, and they might be doing internships or like other things. It can kind of feel like you're not doing enough. Have you guys ever felt like there is a competitive nature? Do you guys doubt yourself sometimes when you see other people doing other things? And if so, how do you overcome that?
Good question. I think I felt that law school would be that way too before I joined. For me, I think I didn't really feel a lot of pressure from the people around me. I know some people are really hard on things like that, wanting to do well and do a lot of things, but I think the main thing that pressured me was myself. And I guess a lot of people are like that too. So I feel like it's already hard dealing with yourself and your own expectations. So sometimes it's not really worth caring too much about how other people are doing and what other people think, as long as you are where you want to be, or if you're not, then at least you're working towards getting there. So yeah, I think focus on competing with yourself. As basic as that sounds, I think that's the one of the best advice you could give to anyone, is to just compete with yourself, because you know yourself best. You know what's good for you, and if you try to copy and compete with other people and they're doing things that aren't working for you, or you might be better off doing something else, then it's like a waste of time, and a waste of energy. So yeah, deal with yourself, compete with yourself. That's probably the best thing you can do.
I personally had a different experience. I really felt like the people around me were competitive.
We go to the same faculty. But yeah, every year is different. The dynamics in every class is very different, so this is great.
But actually, the way I dealt with it was I went straight up to that person and I said to that person, like, hey, I really feel that our friendship is quite like I feel like you're competing with me. And then yeah, and that solved it. That actually worked. So like if anyone is going through that, I would say just bring it up in a conversation. I think that's yeah, because that helped me a lot. And I think sometimes having people who are competitive, they just want to be good at what they do, but sometimes it might affect us and we don't know.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you have a lot of self-doubt. Like I had a lot of self-doubt, and I still do sometimes. But I think you should always remind yourself that you are where you are today because you definitely deserve that position you hold. And it's also good to have self-doubt or have people who challenge you, because that's going to push you to get better. And another thing that I want to say is that be able to pinpoint your weaknesses and your strengths. And if you doubt yourself, make sure to improve that thing that makes you feel weak. So yeah, I think just actively try to solve the problem.
Yeah, actually, I remember I was talking to my friend about this, like, competitiveness in law school. And we basically like agreed that I think when a person sees someone they feel is doing better, that more like better off than them, it's usually two thoughts that come to mind depending on that person's personality. You might think that, oh my God, that person's so amazing, I want to be better than them. Or you may think that person's so amazing, they inspire me, and I want to do better so I can be like that. So I think it's also your mindset as well. If you see anything, and always take it as a threat and something that you have to win, then it might put too much pressure on you. But if you
That's
see as motivation, as like an inspiration, then I think that's so much better. And that also applies with friends. Like in Deeksha's case, I think if you have friends that if they see you and they feel like competing with you, then they might not be people with the most healthy mindsets. So that's something you probably have to keep in mind. So yeah, I think friends in law school is also very important. You should surround yourself by people who work hard with you and don't compete with you. I think that's an important thing as well.
Were you guys involved like in any clubs? Like I mentioned, you guys were part of TIMS. Were you guys involved in anything else also? And if so, how did you juggle doing classes in law school? It comes with projects and assignments, midterms, exams, and also giving time and caring time to the work for your clubs. Because I know a lot of people sometimes they get inflicted between like, should I join these clubs, or like, is it gonna take time away from my classes? I shouldn't be doing anything extra and just focus on my grades. How do you guys like juggle doing both?
Wait, P Nadia, I think did you mute yourself?
Couldn't hear you for a second.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so activities. Yes, I did a lot of activities at law school. I think it's important because to take advantage of your full university experience, and that's definitely not just going to class, you know. So I had like a plan going into university that I was gonna spend my first year doing non-academic activities because as a law student, that's when your classes are the most chill. Um, and then in my second, third, and fourth year, I try to go into more academic activities to improve myself and increase my knowledge. So in terms of time management, I feel like, oh, sorry, I think you can hear my dog barking. I'm sorry.
Oh,
um,
deal.
yeah. So time management, I think the club that really helped me deal with this was cheerleading. Yeah, people might be surprised when I tell them I was a cheerleader, but yes, I was. But it was tough because we would spend a lot of hours a day practicing, sometimes up to 6 to 7 hours a day. And that's a lot of time in your day, you know, that you could use for something else. But I always felt like, you know, in a day, you always have about, I don't know, like 12 to 18 hours to do whatever you want. You may use up 3 or 6 hours of that for class, and then you still have a lot of time. If you're not doing an activity or joining a club, then you're doing something else. You know, you might be reading or binge watching a series or whatever. So I feel like there's always time. We always have time. It's just whether or not we prioritize and manage it well. If you want to use that time to study, even if you're doing other activities, you'll always find time. Yeah, so it's a more of a mindset thing, I think, in my opinion, and discipline, like Deeksha said.
So in law school, I've only been involved in doing moot court competitions and being in the moot committee. Um, I would say when I was doing the moot court competitions, it was really hard to juggle between studying and um, preparing for the competition. But I think the way to manage this is like communication. Just making sure you're like informed and you're able to manage expectations of people around you. I think just communicating well. And lastly, I would say just take care of your mental health, because I understand that when you're doing moot, it takes a lot of your time and it's stressful. So um, I think just taking care of your mental health, and I think everything else will slowly follow through.
Now, like we talked about juggling your time and managing it well, right? I think one of the main things that I find that if you guys are doing clubs and classes, make your class time productive because it'll help with your revision studying for midterms and finals. You have like 3 hours during class. Do you guys have any suggestions for people? Like for example, first years, they sometimes might not know what's coming ahead of them. Do you guys have any suggestions on what they can do to make that 3 hours of their class time as productive as possible to help them not do more than they probably should be doing during finals and midterms so they don't burn out easily?
Yeah. I think what when it comes to this issue, it's really personal preference. Some people like to, you know, take the time and write their own notes after class. Some people just prefer to listen in class once and then just remember and internalize everything. For me, I belong in the second group. I can't really be bothered to make more notes. I'm just too lazy, basically. So I think one thing that I did that really helped push me to pay attention in class was to sit in the more front rows. And I know people might think, oh, that's so nerdy, that's all that, but I'm the type of person that I don't really like to talk in class. I don't really like to ask questions and things like that. So actually, when you sit in the front row, the professor's attention will not be on you. It'll be towards the middle and the back. And I find that you know, if you want to focus and you're a bit anxious about participating in class, actually sitting in front will actually help you. And yeah, I have just noticed if I don't sit in the front of the class, then I'll just end up doing something else and not paying attention. So I think you just really have to put yourself in a position to really focus and work hard and listen. So yeah, that's like my life hack, I guess.
Yeah, I really agree. I also like to sit in front of the class. That's really helpful for me. Like that helps me focus a lot. And I love to make notes after class. I think for me, I like to listen. Oh, one thing I would say is that when you're in class, to think of questions when in class, because if you think of questions, it shows that you're thinking, and you can also check on yourself whether you actually understand the concept if you're able to ask questions. And making notes, I think making notes is super important for me, because I'm a person who I can remember things when I write it down. Yeah, that would be my 2 ways of being productive in class.
Also, like near finals and midterms time, how long do you guys spend revising and studying for exams? Like, do you take out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month before, midterms are coming up, finals are coming up? And when we were on campus, a lot of our exams are closed books, so we had to memorize most of our provisions and everything. How did you guys memorize so many provisions? Because we have like, especially second year, you have like 6 law classes, and that's a lot of provisions. Like your brain literally can't retain everything. How did you guys make sure that you guys passed those 6 classes and didn't burn out or like overdrive your own brain? And also that something I heard from a lot of seniors is learning to apply all of your like material that you learn in class, not just for your exams. Like, don't just memorize it for the sake of memorizing and then forget it afterwards. Also learn to apply it to like real life cases, because once you do internships or work, that's what's going to help you more than just being able to just like come out with different provisions, and that's kind of it. Do you guys have any tips and tricks on how you guys studied and memorized? And also, like, how do you apply it to real life cases? Do you research cases in Thailand and then try to see what laws apply? Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so second year was definitely very traumatizing. Like you said, a lot of memorizing. Yeah, so that definitely sucks. But I think the important thing is you need to understand the concepts first, and then everything else is just numbers and like formalities and things like that. So yeah, my suggestion would be to just understand the underlying principles first. And I think I'm also like Deeksha in some ways, where when I need to really memorize something, I'll write it down as well. I remember, I don't know how I did this, but back when I was in second year, I'd write down all the provisions in full over and over again until I could literally remember all of it. Yeah, but I don't know, spoiler alert, by the time you get to your fourth year, you will not be bothered to do that. But also you can actually ask some of your professors. Some of them aren't very serious about you having to write down actual like numbers of provisions and sections, as long as you can explain the concept that you're trying to apply. So I ended up doing that towards the end of my time at law school. I didn't really write a lot of legal provisions unless they were like really important ones. And then I just explained the principles and what concepts I was applying to the cases, and it didn't affect my grades. So I think find what works best for you, because in real life, like I said, everything's open book. It's just like numbers. You don't have to actually memorize them to work well, but you have to demonstrate that you understand the concept that you're applying.
Another, adding on to P Nadia, I would say on top of that, to do a lot of past papers.
Yes.
Past papers
yes.
is the best way to revise. And also, like, once you do a lot of past papers, you're going to know what sections apply to what type of cases. And actually, you'll also remember how to apply the law, because you'll understand, okay, after section 19, you have to, section 20 follows, and then section 21 follows. Like, you'll know exactly how to structure your paper and how to answer such a case. So I would say past papers is so important, and memorizing, yeah, and preparing for exams.
So true, very true.
Okay. One other topic now I want to move and talk about is failures in law school. But I think failure is a little strong of a word. I think more so like adjusting your expectations to be a little more realistic. First year, like we said, you have a lot of easy classes, and majority of the time you're probably gonna get straight A's through semester 1 and 2. And then you start your second year. And a lot of my seniors had told me don't expect to get complete straight A's because you just did in your first year. And then a lot of students don't get told this, that how difficult sometimes your second, third year can get onwards. And people sometimes feel like if you don't get straight A's, you're failing. You're not, performing as well as you did in your first year. And it's something that doesn't get talked a lot about. If someone gets slightly a bad grade, like if they just pass with a C in a class, people don't openly talk about this with a lot of students. And I feel like this can be like really stressful on students when they feel like they aren't performing as well as people around them? Is there something you guys want to like give any advice to anyone about like changing your mindset sometimes, being more realistic?
Yeah. So that's true. The thing about your grades in second and third year. So I think just try your best. Try to get the best grades you can in your first year, and then in your second, third, and fourth year, what's important, I guess, is focusing on subjects that you actually like. You don't have to be an expert in every subject. You don't have to be that amazing. I think very few people are. And a lot of people that do get very good grades, even during those tougher years, end up sacrificing a lot of time that they could have used to do more clubs and activities and live more and take advantage of their university life. So I think, yeah, managing expectations is very important, but also prioritizing, because yeah, it's important to know that you don't have to know everything. No one does. As long as you focus and do well on the things that you're interested in or the things that you want, to pursue as a career later on, I think that's better. Because there are some classes where I'll tell you, I got like B's and C's on, but I didn't care at all because I knew that I wasn't interested in those subjects. So it didn't really bother me. I was like, yeah, even if you ask me about it, I'll be like, yeah, but I don't care because, it's not one of my interests. Just do well in what you like and what you think you'll use in the future. I think that's probably the best way to manage your expectations and your mental health as well, so you don't get too beat up when your grades aren't perfect.
I totally agree. Like I think people should really really understand that you don't have to be good at something that you love. Like I really love law and business organizations. Like that's my favorite class. And it's so difficult. And I didn't do well in the midterms. And that really I felt really bad because it's something I really like. And but then you can always tell yourself that it's okay to not do okay, and then use that to push you to work really hard for the finals. And I brought my grade up in the finals, and I'm just saying that it's okay to not do well, or to not do as well as you expected, because that's gonna show you what you need to work on. And there's this quote that says like success is the worst teacher. So I would definitely say that it's okay to fail, because that's only going to make you stronger and better in whatever you're doing.
I don't want to scare anyone who's listening, especially if there are any first years listening, because I feel like this is getting a little heavy. So I want to ask, what was your most memorable time in law school? Like, what is something you look back on when you think of your law school years that really like you're gonna hold on forever when you graduate 5 years, 10 years back? These are like the stories you're gonna remember that law school is actually really fun.
That's so hard.
There's so many, I feel like.
Yeah. I don't think I'll pinpoint like a specific event, but I'll say that the vibe in general, despite all the ups and downs, I had a very good time at law school. I learned so much, and one of the most amazing things is that I think you really learn more about yourself and your interests and what you want to do in life. And that's one of the most amazing things to go through, because you feel like you have a clearer sense of purpose, which is great. And I also really like the time I spent with my friends and all the activities I did. I think in general, it was just a really, really fun time. Despite all the classes and stuff, I think law school is probably when you're going to be the most stress-free in your life. I think one of the times, because you don't have to take on any like real world responsibilities yet. Classes are stressful, definitely. And sometimes you might go through really tough times in university, but it also has, its advantages and benefits. So I think it's important to focus on those when times are hard. Yeah.
I cannot like pinpoint either like what's the most memorable experience in law school, but I think being with friends, that was one of the I think that's one of the best moments, and like getting to know your professors, and like getting to talk to them, and uh I mean, going to class and coming out of the class and thinking of something that the professor said that really blew your mind. Like, I think like I really live for moments like that. Or, I mean, I think the best moments would be like casually walking to Tabatan and having the street food over there because it's so good. Like,
Wow.
I think, yeah, I really miss the food over there.
What did you guys go through during your law school years that you guys didn't expect to go through? Like, was there anything that came out of nowhere? It could be like anything good or bad, also, like any lessons that you guys learned that came out positive or negative, either way. Something you just didn't see coming.
Good question. Okay, I think maybe, like I said, I feel like at least for me, I learned a lot about myself in law school. And I think my personality or maybe my outlook on life and people and things around me kind of changed as well. Before, I think I was really an overthinker and I'd like stress about the littlest things, especially, and I'd, always think about, how people were perceiving me and if I was like, you know, like offending anyone, things like that, like little things that I was always worried about and would always make me really stressed. I think I learned to just chill out more in law school and really prioritize even friends. Sometimes when you learn more about yourself, I think it adjusts your circle and the people you surround yourself with. And before, I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I could like say no to some people or friendships that I was having and that weren't really working out. And I also didn't think that, especially through doing Moot Court, I didn't think that I would grow and learn so much because when you do some of these activities, it really forces you to be vulnerable and really accept like criticism and judgment. But it also makes you improve a lot in a short amount of time. So yeah, I think just I didn't expect to change so much after going to university. But I think they were mostly changes for the good, which I think is great. I think it was just growing up. Yeah, it's a great place to grow up, I think, if you're surrounded with the right people. Yeah.
That's so true. I would also say that I think I grew a lot, and I also learned to trust the process. Like you're where you are, and everything's gonna fall into place. Like I think we worry so much coming to law school, like what our career is gonna look like or what we're gonna do after law school. But I think everything will fall into place. Like it's to just trust and let it go and just go with the flow.
Yeah.
What were your guys' personal favorite like subject maybe at Thammasat, favorite legal area that you might like studied or did through Moot? Maybe even like favorite ajans that you guys got to study with? Any favorite professors or anybody you guys have?
Yes. So one of my favorite legal subjects and areas now that I hope to work more on in my career is international law. So I originally studied international law in second year, and I wasn't that blown away by it. But then when I did Moot, I actually had to, study it more and really apply it to cases, and that's when I think I really fell in love with it. Um, yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite subjects. I also like philosophy of law. I know a lot of people don't like that class, but I think it's so interesting because you get to explore concepts that are so fundamental, but you never really think about like why do people follow the law or who decides what a just law is. It's questions like that I think are really interesting and they actually underpin a lot of things that we do in life. So yeah, I think those are probably my two favorite subjects. As for favorite professors, I have a lot. I think I like all of the professors in our faculty. If I don't like any, it's probably just because I'm not interested in the subject they're teaching. So yeah, it's not really about them. It's more about me and my interests. So yeah, I will say I think a lot of people are really intimidated by professors, but they're actually really sweet and they want to help us. So even if we feel very like intimidated and if you don't really want to talk to them or ask them questions, they're there to help you because they love teaching. That's what they do. So yeah, I think taking the time to learn more about your professors, I think is also a good idea in law school.
my favorite subject is law and business organizations and secure transactions. Anything to do with business and company law. I know
Yeah,
people might
total
disagree with
opposite.
All corporate law type of the subjects.
Yeah.
and I love international law too.
Mm.
And when I did the Vismut, I really realized that I love international commercial law. So anything to do with business, like send it my way.
Like
and with
sorry, no. You
oh,
have a
I would just think with professors, I think it's the same as Nadia said. It's the subjects. It's to do with me. It's the
Yeah.
subject like I just end up liking the professor. Oh, and I love secure transactions too. Just forgot to mention.
I'm so excited for starting that. I'm starting it like next week. I'm really nervous for secure transactions.
I didn't even take that subject because I just knew I didn't want to do anything corporate company business law related, which was crazy, right? Because we're in like a business law faculty, but I was like, no, I know what I want, and this is not it.
For our year now to take
Oh yeah, mandatory. I
yes,
was lucky. I was like the last batch that could choose.
for that. Yeah, hopefully I survived that. It'll be fine. I survived business organization. I'll be fine with this one, hopefully.
Yeah.
So like you guys mentioned you guys did moot. How many moots did you guys do and what different moots did you do? And what year did you guys apply during your first year or like second year onwards? First year?
I can't remember. I think my first moot was internal moot, which was like which is like an internal competition within the university. I don't remember what year that was. I think maybe second year. I also did Asia Cup during the summer of my second year, going into third year, and I also did Jessup. Sadly, that was the year it got canceled, just a couple weeks before international rounds. So I did get to compete in the national round, but not after that, which is kind of sad. But yeah, I did two moots, two international.
So you do all the work leading up to your international round and then it got canceled.
Basically, we were ready to compete, ready to go to the US, and then yeah, COVID happened, so it got canceled.
That's so sad. You didn't even do it online. You spend like all that time working and not even getting to compete.
No, because back then COVID had just started, so people weren't really sure where it was going, and they hadn't prepared to do anything online. This year, Jessup was online, but yeah, back then they didn't have enough time to do anything, so they just canceled it. Sad, but yeah.
That was so sad. I remember being there.
I know. It was yeah.
For me, so I started moot in my first year. So I did internal moot in my first year, and then I did this moot in my first year as well. Then going into my second year, I did the ALSA moot, which was the investor state arbitration. And then after that, I assisted, like I was a coach for the internal moot.
Were you guys nervous before applying for your first moot? Again, like a lot of first timers, they feel like it's so intimidating, it's so like scary joining moot. It's only for like the people who are super nerdy or people who are like probably the top of the class. Were you guys like nervous? Did you guys doubt that you would be able to keep up with the work that's like expected that you have to do for like moot competitions?
Yeah, I was definitely intimidated. I think back, especially when I was starting out, which wasn't long. It was like 2-3 years ago. Moot wasn't really that mainstream yet. I think it's become a lot more mainstream now, and it really just had this reputation of just being a very like intense and academically challenging club, which it is. But that's not all it is, and it's definitely manageable. Yeah. So even me, on my first moot, internal moot, I didn't even compete until the pleadings. Yeah, I actually kind of gave up after memorials because it was too at the time it was too stressful for me. So yeah, that's just yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think a lot of people also really beat themselves up when they don't go through with moot. But yeah, it's important to know what's working for you, and at least I think at that time I wasn't really having the freedom to do it as I wanted because I had coaches and other people on my team, and I feel like I was being really influenced by what they were doing. And it really stressed me out because, yeah, I feel like I wasn't understanding what I was doing. I was just basically doing what everyone else was. And yeah, so that's why I didn't complete my first moot, and it was fine because it gave me time to go back and do more research on the laws and how moot court works. And then I came back during Asia Cup and I was so much more prepared, and I actually found it to be a really, really fun experience. Yeah, so it's definitely hard, and if you don't make it the first time, it's also okay, as long as you keep trying. And if you actually, if you don't make it, it's fine. It's just moot. It's not the end of the world. And also it's important to know that you have a support group, a support system, other mooters, coaches, professors. They're there to help you as well. So if you do need help, make sure to communicate. Yeah.
I was very intimidated during moot, especially I would say the first moot is the most difficult one. I struggled a lot in my first moot. So I would say like, don't be scared away if you're doing moot for the first time, because it gets better. Like, you know what you're expected of and what you have to do. When I applied for the Vismoot, I sent in my we had to submit an essay. So and they're gonna accept you. I withdrew my application like a few hours after applying because I was so scared. So yeah, I would say I was very scared. I had a lot of self-doubt, but I would just say push through it. It's worth it. It's so like Moot Court is really worth, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity when you're in law school, and you really grow from it. So I would say do what you're most scared of.
I think moot can be a lot of fun, but people sometimes don't see that side. You also get like really close to your teammates, your coach, and a lot of the professors and alumni that you get to meet by doing moot. It's like a lot of fun, but people don't see that. And also a lot of people who want to join the committee sometimes don't see how much fun it can be also, not just doing moot, but being part of TIMS. So do you guys have any like memorable moments you guys had with your team or your coach or being part of TIMS? Like the committee also along with doing your competitions?
Okay, so memorable moments doing moot. I think it was just like a funny moment. I had funny and also really sad moments. Maybe I'll share to just contrast all the emotional roller coaster I went through in my first moot. So it was Asia Cup and we competed in Japan. They're basically in the first round, every team competes, and then the next day they announce the 4 teams that get to go to the semifinal rounds. So from around 20 teams, they would eliminate like 16, and then 4 would be left. So that was a pretty stressful night, I think, after the first night. And I was really doubting myself. I felt like I didn't do well, and I felt like if I was like the weak link in the team, then my entire team, everyone else that worked really hard to be there, would not get to go to the next round. And I felt really responsible and stressed out. Yeah, and I felt like crying. And then my professor, who wasn't even in Japan with us, she could sense that because we talked on the phone briefly. And she called me and I just started crying and crying. And it's so weird because I never expected myself to cry with a law professor, like basically one of my teachers, that to me, it was so weird. But then afterwards, I felt like I felt stronger weirdly after, because I felt like I got it out of my system. And we actually ended up making it to the next round. So then I also learned that I was being way too hard on myself. We were probably doing like an okay job. And I just had to chill. So that was a more emotional moment, but it was also very memorable to me. It was like a turning point, I think, for me. And on that same moot, so we got 3rd place actually on that moot, which was amazing. We hadn't gotten that in a couple years. But the organizing committee forgot to announce us as 3rd place winners. So we thought they wouldn't. We thought maybe they just wanted to announce the 1st and 2nd place. So me and my team, we were just hanging out, and we were wearing these like hotel slippers because our feet hurt from wearing heels all day. And people were like laughing at us. And then the organizing committee was like, "Oh, we forgot to announce one winner. Thammasat University, please come up and get your award." And we went up wearing hotel slippers, and the judges took pictures of us and sent it to our professors. So I think it went on the website as well, and like they had like this newsletter. It was on there as well, and it was pretty funny. I think we just didn't care. Yeah, we were just like, oh, so glad this was done. Yeah, that was a funny moment. I'm sure there were more. I just can't think of any right now. But yeah, emotional roller coaster, but very, very fun and very worth it.
Make memories to this. Like this is something you can look back and laugh on now.
Yeah, totally. It was really funny.
It's definitely an emotional roller coaster. I would remember when we were doing the business, like we would meet almost every day or every other day just to practice our pleadings. And I feel like just meeting every day and working together and talking to each other every day, like I really felt emotionally connected to each team member and even the professor. And even when we went to Hong Kong to compete, we stayed together and we would like practice till like 1 a.m., like midnight. And we would get so tired when it's like by midnight, and then we would just be laughing about something not funny, but it was funny because we were all tired. So I think it's the moments that we were all together and the moments that we shared, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even before going to Hong Kong, like that 6-7 months just working together almost every day, like, hey, make edits over here, go research on this. Like I would say it's really memorable. And even you'd see unexpected moments of you'll get to see the things you've never seen of each of your team members because you're with them so much. And then you'll actually see them like at different times of the day, and then you'll understand who they are as a person like better.
Yeah.
And I think that's very nice. It's very nice to connect with them in that way as well.
Yeah, that's true. It's like you don't get that opportunity a lot. Yeah, it's very unique.
So as I'm aware, you guys did like summer internships either this previous summer break or even like before that. What was that experience like? Getting to actually practice at a law firm, being around people who are actually practicing the law. Like, what was that whole experience like?
Yeah, so remember how I said I really didn't like company and corporate law and all that? I did intern at a law firm, which involves a lot of like more corporate and commercial uh, stuff. I did that because I wanted to know for sure if I really didn't want to pursue a career in this area. And so when I did intern, I interned at a law firm in Thailand. It's not like a huge law firm, but I liked it. I think I got the opportunity to work on a lot of different cases, not just very corporate cases as well. So it made me, realize that in a law firm, the practices are quite versatile. Like you can do a lot. You don't actually just have to do like, corporate and very business related stuff. Yeah, but I think the experience of working in like an office setting it was completely new to me, and that was interesting. All the timesheets, all the things that go on behind the scenes that you didn't know you'd have to do, and also working with seniors and your mentors and sometimes working with your partners and presenting your work. I think all those soft skills and those experiences were really memorable and valuable. So yeah, I think maybe my perspective, I'd just say that even if you might feel like this may not be your career path, just try it out because it's experience nonetheless. And yeah, I don't regret interning at a law firm at all, even if I went into it kind of knowing that I wouldn't pursue it as a career path. But it was nice to know what it was like and to get to know a lot of really amazing and smart people. Yeah.
I personally I really like enjoy working at a law firm. I think it's something that I want to pursue in the future. Um, it's a lot different from studying. I, I think obviously because it's working, but um, I think it's a whole new world. Like you don't really experience it when you're studying, and when you start working, you have another standard of expectations on you, and you also put a lot of pressure on yourself. When I was interning, I put a lot of pressure on myself on the work that I do and how I want the outcome to be. So it's a lot different from studying, and you have to take a lot more responsibility of your work. And sometimes if you're doing a group work with your friends, you might have an excuse like, oh, I'm so tired. I was really busy. I couldn't do it. But once you're working, it's a whole nother level of expectations upon you. So I think it's like you just have to grow a lot when you're working.
What was the application process like for law firms here? For any students who don't know how landing an internship works here?
Yeah, so at least for Thammasat, I don't know if this is the same in other universities. We'd have a law firm open house where a lot of law firms would come and they would like have panel discussions and they'd set up booths so we could go and send in our applications. I didn't send my application in that way, I think, as far as I remember. But I went to just listen and get the vibe of what each firm was like, because I feel like you can kind of learn about what the work environment is like based on the people who came to the open house. Yeah, so you can apply through the open house, or you could also just approach the firm directly. You can email them or just go to their office. Yeah, and if you're shortlisted, then they'll call you for an interview and maybe they'll have some tests for you to do, and then yeah, I think it's pretty standard.
I want to add on like something that was quite interesting to me was a lot of the firms, they test you on your legal knowledge when you go for the interview. So that was quite, I did not know that was a thing until I joined law school.
What were like the top questions that they asked? Like what type of questions were they asking you? What are more probably like the common questions they're probably more likely to ask even in the future? And is there any way that anyone can prepare before going for these interviews? Because it can be nerve-wracking, you know, like you don't know what they're gonna ask you about. It's just gonna be legal questions, and it can be very like stressful.
Yeah. So it really depends on the firm. If you're applying for a firm that has like a lot of departments, they might ask you to choose a department you want to intern at. So say you want to do like IP law, then they might ask you questions about IP law. I've gone to an interview where they literally had like a case, and then they asked me like, what would you do in this case? Like, what would you advise the client? Things like that. So I think if you're applying for a specific department, definitely brush up on some of the concepts and laws. But they'll also ask you like general questions like what your favorite subjects are, and they might ask you a question based on that. So if you're actually interested in that subject, then you probably won't have a lot of trouble answering. They also ask you, things about you and your background. I got asked, I told you guys, right, I got like I think a C on business organizations, and they asked me what happened to the subject, and I just told them straight up. I was like, to be honest, it wasn't the most interesting subject to me. But I think I improved a lot because, like Deeksha, my first during midterms, it was horrible, and then I kind of did better in the finals. So yeah, so even that, guys, even me getting a C on like a business law subject, I still could intern at a law firm. So don't be too hard on grades. And I think they're also pretty understanding, because at that point when you're working, the grades aren't everything. At the end, it depends on how well you work and how well you can adapt. Yeah, so yeah, just pretty basic questions. I think maybe just prepare some basic legal knowledge, I think, is enough.
Sorry, P Deeksha, you want to go on and say how the whole experience was for you, like the whole interview process?
Oh, I just wanted to add on to P Nadia that I think the top interview question that they always ask is to introduce yourself, and I think that's so difficult. Like, I don't know like it's so difficult to know what they want to know about you. So I would say to prepare for the question, like introduce yourself.
I think P Nadia, you're already working because you're graduated, but P Deeksha, did you do your summer internship at like online? Was it like a stay home internship? How was that like? Like, did you have a lot of supervision or training? And also, you went at a law firm with a lot of people. Did you get any support with work at home? Or was it more like, here's your assignment, here's your work, you can do it by yourself type of thing?
So I'm actually a bit lucky because I interned last year as well. So last year was work at office, and now this year it's work at home. So working from home is similar but different from working at the office. Um, what I experienced was when I interned this summer was when they would assign me at work, they would send me an email like this is your assignment, and then they're gonna schedule a Zoom call, and they're gonna call me and um, maybe like brief about the assignment that they want me to do. So it really depends. So sometimes it was just an email and then do work on this. If you have any questions, call me or email me. So yeah, it was all just depending on the nature of the work, and um, it went that way. And for feedback, it's also a Zoom call. And actually, they're very nice. And if you have any questions, they're always willing to answer and help you out with anything you're stuck with.
I think like the summer internship is probably one of the first working experience you get in a legal more setting. So what was your primary like job responsibility as an internship? Like because I feel like a lot of people might not understand what type of work you're given as an intern. And I'm pretty sure it, like differentiates from firm to firm, but like more in your own experiences. What did you guys like what type of work were handed to you and expected of you to do?
Yeah, so law firms are basically legal advisors, right? People hire them to help with legal issues. Companies hire them. So there could be a whole range of things that we have to help our clients with, from helping them register their company to going to court and arguing a case for them. So it's a whole wide array of services that we do. As an intern, you won't get, in rare cases will you get to be really involved in a case. You'll probably be involved in like a part of it if your seniors need you to do research on a certain legal issue, or maybe they want you to find precedent from like a previous court decision that might help with their case. Um, or maybe you even have to do like more dull stuff like go to a public agency and do some registration, or call a public agency and ask them some questions or things like that. But in some cases, you will actually get to be really involved in a case. So if the case is going to court and your team's trying to figure out what arguments to use, and what approach they should take, what evidence they should use, you might also be involved in that as well. For me, I got to be involved in some cases like that, but I had to volunteer to do that actually. So I think if you really want like a worthwhile experience, you should definitely sign up, even if it seems like more work. But if you put in more work, then you'll get a more, I think, satisfactory experience. Um, so yeah, I think you get what you give. So if you really put yourself out there and offer to do more, then you'll get to learn more as well.
Yeah, it's so true. Like you get what you give. And a lot of the work I got as an intern is research. It's so a lot of the work you do is like they'll tell you to research on specific laws. Suppose a company is going to do due diligence, so they're going to ask you to research. Okay, so like, what licenses does this company need to do this business? Or they'll give you a contract, like, and ask you to see if there are any legal provisions on there. Or they'll research, like, they'll send you a questionnaire from the client, and then they'll ask you to research and give answers. So it's like P and Nadia said, it's an advisory firm. And because my work heavily was in corporate, so a lot of the work was like this. But if you're in other departments, like in litigation, you have a lot of finding Supreme Court decisions to support your arguments. Yeah.
I mean, P Nadia, now that you're working already and it's a lot of it's like work at home, and P Deeksha, you did your like this previous summer internship at home. Do you guys have any tips on how people can network during like lockdown and doing it at home? Because networking is like a big part of being in this legal field, right? Do you guys have any tips on how people can use that in their advantage? What can people do to make connections and like people they can meet through being at home?
That's definitely hard. For me, I was lucky because when I just started, the COVID situation here wasn't that bad. So I had the opportunity to go to the office for a couple months So I got to make a lot of friends. But now that we're working from home, I think some people might not like this, but I really like having meetings because I just like being, to be able to have a conversation with people. Some people don't like meetings. They just prefer to, if this could have been done through email, you should have just sent an email. But, I like to see people's faces and talk to them. So there's that. But also, your relationship with your coworkers doesn't have to always be work. You can share other things and other interests and talk about other stuff. So yeah, I think it's like making an effort, and also just it's like any relationship, if you want to network and make it flourish and deepen it, then you kind of have to like put the work in and try to find ways to involve them in more things maybe other than work. I think that probably can help. But yeah, it's very hard online, to be honest, because everyone's, at home and wanting to just work alone. So yeah, maybe setting like a weekly event or something, like a weekly call or a discussion. Or at least in my work, we have this thing called a book circle where every week we recommend a book to other people in the team, and then it just kind of grew into like an interest circle. So we'd just be recommending random stuff like YouTube channels and podcasts and Instagram channels, things like that. So yeah, I think that's also like a nice activity that you could do, just like a small weekly thing that doesn't take too much time and is also really fun.
I agree too. Like I think you should definitely have a weekly event. And actually, while interning, I was very lucky that they had a lot of training sessions. So you got to meet the other interns, and you got to talk with the lawyers working as well. And yeah, I think just like Nadia said, it's to just make an effort to communicate and network with people. It's really difficult since you're working from home and we haven't met a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Zoom calls, like just have like get like meet like see people's faces. That goes a long way. Because like during internship, we had to do a final project, and we had to do a final presentation at the end. And just we've never met each other before, but just having Zoom calls, I feel like we became friends. And yeah, I would say like Zoom calls is really good.
What is something you wish you knew before doing your summer internship, and what is something you wish you can like now tell anyone who's going to be doing their first summer internship, as like now our open law firm is going to come up soon. So if whoever is interested in joining, is there anything you'd like to give them like a heads up on before, applying for their summer internships?
Okay. I think maybe this is like based on how the vibe was in my year during internship season. I remember like when we were at the campus during the time where like it was the season where people would be applying for internships and they start getting calls and like interviews and things like that. People, when they see each other, they wouldn't even say hi. They'd just be like, like, do you have somewhere to intern yet? Like, have you gotten a call? Have you gone to an interview? It was that serious at the time. And I think a lot of people were really stressed about it, me included. I was also like, oh my God, like, was I not chosen? Like, did I do something wrong? So maybe just not to stress about it too much. And if you're really concerned, then I think just apply to a lot of places. There's always going to be a firm out there for you, or you don't even have to apply for a law firm. You could intern as like an in-house lawyer, or you could, even if you don't get to do an internship, you can use that time to study, brush up on your legal knowledge, or even volunteer and work on other projects as well. So internships aren't really the end of the world. And I think when you go into the workforce, I guess, where you intern kind of matters, but also not really. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, if you don't get to do an internship, or if you get to do one in a firm that you didn't want to at first. Yeah, just it's chill. It's very chill, and you can always do a second one in your fourth year. So you have two chances.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I agree with Pinadia that's you should have that mindset as well. And another thing I would like to add on is when you start working, don't expect to be perfect, because you're only an intern and you have no experience. So you might get assigned to work and you will have no idea how to do it. and it's okay to make mistakes. I think I learned it really. I would be really stressed out. Like during my first internship, I was very stressed out. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this means. Someone help me. But it's totally okay. I would just say be confident. And if you don't know how to do something, ask questions, ask for help. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help because it's going to save everyone's time.
So now that P Deeksha, you're coming to the end of your law school years, and P Nadia, you're already working. What are your guys' like future personal plans when it comes to your career? Are you guys planning on going to do your LLM somewhere, or are you guys planning on like working and like working towards to get somewhere?
Yeah. So for me, honestly, I don't have like a clear path. I'm the type of person I think that I won't be fully satisfied with my decision unless I've tried every other option or as much as I can. That's why when I graduated, I didn't go straight to law firms, even though like I was okay with working at a law firm after interning at one. So I went into like research, and I also want to try to go into like INGOs and maybe like UN agencies and things like that. So or maybe even being an in-house lawyer. I want to try everything and see what I like most, and then I think I'll probably try to focus on like one career path. Yeah, but I definitely want to get an LLM too. I realized that I really like learning and going to school. As weird as that sounds, I find it very satisfying to learn more about the things I'm interested in. So yeah, it's definitely something I want to do in the future. I used to be really stressed out about like not having a clear idea of what I wanted to do, but I think it's okay as long as you're always learning and gaining new experiences, because that's always valuable. And when you do end up finding what you want to do, those experiences will pay off and they'll definitely help you. So yeah, just don't be too hard on yourself because no one really knows what they're doing, to be honest, you know.
I personally want to work in a law firm after I graduate, but yeah, I think I'll do an LLM sooner, like later in my career. But yeah, that's my plan right now. But let's see what happens. Like we never know. I might change my mind, but this is what I want to do right now.
Okay, lastly, before we finish this episode, we usually ask everyone who's on here if you have any last like advice, any piece of wisdom you want to leave us with. As you guys are much more experienced than us and older, is there anything you want to leave us, your younger selves, like anything?
Okay. I think it's like a reoccurring theme is to just take it easy and not be too hard on yourself, because that actually does more harm than good, you know. When you're stressed out and you're like beating yourself up about not knowing what you're doing or being unsure about your future, it doesn't really help. It's better to have a clear mind and to accept that sometimes you might not know everything and you might not always be ready and prepared, and that's okay as long as you learn from it and you do better next time. So yeah, just be chill, trust the process like Deeksha said, and everything will turn out okay.
Yeah, I also want to say don't forget to have fun. It's like you're studying, you're in law school. It's the 4 years, so just have fun and enjoy, and just try new things and go out of your comfort zone and find yourself. Yeah, know what you like and know what you don't like.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your experience and like sharing your wisdom with us. It was a pleasure talking to you guys today. And I hope whoever's listening to this enjoyed it and can take something away from this entire episode. Thank you so
ถ้า
much
หา
for
กใคร
coming
ต้องการ
on.
ที่จะพูดคุยกับเราสามารถ inbox ทาง Facebook Page ธรรมศาสตร์ International Moot Society หรือผ่าน IG TIMS_TU ได้เลยนะคะสำหรับวันนี้ขอลาไปก่อนสวัสดีค่ะ